What's up? What's up? What's up, people? What's going on, baby? This is Kevin Locks, and this is my wife.
Tanya Locks.
And man, this is Couples Connect with Kevin and Tanya Locks. So, what is Couples Connect? So, this is a time where we come together and we talk about marriage stuff. So, the underlying to that is marriage, mindset, and money, right? So we feel like all those things have played a major part in our marriage, and we know that it plays a major part in other marriages as well. So we just want to talk about it, man. So we've been married for now 20, going on 24 years, and we got three amazing kids through the marriage, and we have been through many different things throughout the years. So that's 24 years married, 3 years together prior, so 27 years total that I've been with this amazing, beautiful woman. So it's been an amazing journey. So you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we come with a lot of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we've been through some challenges, like Kevin said, and we just recognize the challenges along the way. And we just want to share some of the things that we've learned with other
Absolutely.
married couples or couples who are engaged.
Absolutely. So we got a lot to talk about, man. This is we just want to test this thing out, man, and just kind of see hopefully that we can be a blessing to some marriages out there just through the stuff that we share, and also later on the couples that we're going to be bringing on to kind of talk about their experiences, good and bad. And we want this to be a safe place, man, where people can come and open up about their marriage and in hopes that it can bless someone else in theirs, right? Because we in this thing together at the end of the day. That's what this podcast is going to be about. So if you've experienced anything in your marriage, good or bad, we're going to talk about it. If you experience anything in your money, good or bad, we're going to talk about it. And guess what? All that plays into the whole mindset thing. So is marriage, money, mindset, stuff that we're going to be covering here on this podcast. So it's a blessing, man. Share it. Let everybody else know. Tap in, man. We're going to have some good stuff coming in the future. But I want you guys to get to know us a little bit, right? So as I mentioned, we got three kids. You want to tell them their names, the age, all that good stuff?
So yeah, we have three kids. We have twins who are 17. They'll be 18 this year. We don't know where the time has gone,
Mm-mm.
but they will be 18 this year. And that is Hannah and Kevin Jr. And we also have our baby girl, Naomi. She is 15 and she'll be 16 this year. So we will be empty nesters sometime soon.
Listen, empty nesting sound good. But we are really close knit family, so it's gonna be sad when the kids go. But at the same time,
But
we
if
going
they go,
if
because
they go.
I've seen a lot, even among
Yeah,
our friends,
true that,
that
true
they're
that,
not leaving home right away. So, but
true
we
that.
love them. So if they stay, for a couple more years, it may be okay.
Yeah, it might be okay. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, as you guys get to know a little bit more about us, then we'll start bringing on some amazing couples, man, that we've connected with over the years, and maybe some new couples that we've, maybe not connected with. Some new couples that we're going to connect with for the first time right here on this podcast. So,
Mm.
but the main thing is we really want to talk about, marriages on this particular podcast and all the aspects, the ups and downs of marriage, because it's not easy. We all know that if
Yeah.
you've been married, especially if you're married for some time. And we just feel like there was a need, man. There's a need to connect with other married couples. That's why, hence the name of this podcast is Couples
Couples
Connect
Connect.
with Kevin and Tanya Locks, because we want to connect with other couples. We want to let you guys know that, hey, man, we get it. We've been there. We understand. But we made it, right?
Yeah.
So we want to share those challenges, and we'll share some stuff we went through throughout the years, some good and bad, right? So
And can I just say that
yeah.
our challenges may not look the same, but we all share the same pain points. No matter what the challenges that we've all faced hurt. So we all know what hurt and pains feel like.
Yeah,
So, we can share our, points on that throughout the podcast.
absolutely, absolutely.
There's a book called How We Love,
Mhm.
and it talks about how, in a relationship, how we love each other. It's how we communicate with each other. It's how we learn to love each other through, like you said, childhood. We
Mhm.
saw how our parents loved each other, or whomever we were raised by, or who was close connected to us. We saw how they loved.
Yeah.
And we took on that love style. And a lot of times we took on something that's really not who we are, truly inside, and how we operate and how we love. It's just what we remember and what we saw growing up.
Hmm. Yeah, man, great point. So, man, I'm telling you, it's a lot of good stuff, man, that we had to learn and overcome. And I'm pretty sure many of you probably may be going through the same type situation or
Mhm.
have gone through it or some at some point will go through it. But that was a major point for us to realize, those childhood traumas within each other for us to better relate and communicate on some of the things that we were dealing with. So, yeah, man, so it's going to get good. So, um, man, today we're gonna keep it real short. We're gonna talk about a few things and we're gonna get up on out of here, man. Just so let's talk about it, man. So I got a few things written here. Did a little research and this is from Forbes advisor, and this is what now, because if you was to think like what may be some of the main things that may be the number one reason for divorce,
Divorce.
right?
Hmm.
What would you say would be one top one you think?
I say communication.
Communication.
Hmm.
Okay, that could be one, but it's
Hmm.
not, right? But kind of, sort of, but not, right? And most people, I remember back in the day, a lot of people always felt like infidelity, that would be the main one. Like, man, you cheat, I'm out, it's over, right? And but for a long time, even though I thought that was the main one, it wasn't. At the time, it was
Finance.
finances, right?
Finance.
Finances was the number one reason for divorce. But even today, this is as of 2024, Forbes advisory. This is the biggest factor for getting a divorce. And this is, like I said, once again, this is recent study. This is stuff. So number one on the list is at 43%. You wouldn't believe is lack of family support. So lack of family, like someone's not supporting you, your family's not supporting you,
Mm.
and that's not something that anyone would think like, man, that's number one. But once again, this is just Forbes advisory, right? So they may have other studies for something
Hmm.
different, but this is the one that I kind of ran across. And this is their number one at 43%. What do you think about that? Lack of family support.
So I really do think that that is a great point because I can remember
Hmm.
when we first got married, on the day of our marriage ceremony, I had an older cousin of mine to say to me, "This marriage is not going to last." Why he said it, I have no idea because I've never been married before, so he had nothing to compare it to. Maybe he was comparing it to his own marriage because at that time his marriage was failing, and he is divorced. So I believe that is true. You don't have the lack of family support. But I also think that sometimes when you involve your family in your marriage, it can get
Mm,
sticky and ugly,
true that.
as well. So,
True that.
but I do think that that is a great top percent.
Yeah, man. That's great points, man. Because you just wouldn't think at that being number one, but you can see how family not supporting and going against you, and kind of like what your cousin did,
Yeah.
right?
But on the flip side of that, my mother-in-law,
Mm.
now you have the ones who are naysayers and you have the ones who are positive, who are for your marriage. My mother-in-law said to us,
My mama.
yes, get out of here. Because if you don't, your marriage is not going to last. And she was meaning leave New Iberia. So she supported us so much. So,
Yeah, she wanted to have a fresh start somewhere
yes,
else and get away
yes,
from all the naysayers and stuff like that.
yeah.
So yeah, so real quick, 43% lack of family support. That was the number one. Number two was at 34%. That goes your infidelity, right?
Hmm.
So cheating on a spouse. That was at a 34%. And what do you think about that? What do you think? I mean, you can still see that's definitely. I think
Yeah, it's
that's
up
going to
there.
always be
Yeah,
in that top three, you would
yeah,
think, right?
yeah.
Infidelity is such a big thing. It constantly runs rampant through a lot of marriages and has destroyed a lot of marriages,
Hmm.
but that doesn't always have to be the case. So anyway, so 34%. Anything you want to say to
No,
that?
you're right. It doesn't always have to be the case. For some people, it's not a deal breaker.
And so the next one, man, it was a three-way tie. So we had lack of compatibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then another 31% lack of intimacy, and 31% again too much conflict or arguing. So compatibility, lack of intimacy, and too much arguing, conflict going on. They were all at 31%.
Mm.
Once again, you and I talked a little bit about this before we even got started. Those are all things that we feel should not be deal breakers.
Yeah.
These are all things that can be fixed, worked through, and talked about through counseling, through different methods. But for some reason, these very things have caused people to divorce. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
think? I mean, come on.
Um,
Intimacy, compatibility, arguing all the time.
yeah. I can see why it, especially if it's a constant thing
Mm,
and nobody is doing the work, on themselves or trying to work within the marriage or the relationship. I can see why that would cause someone to get a divorce.
yeah,
Because sometimes we are human, we get tired and stuff like that. But like you said, it shouldn't be the reason why you get a divorce. Because those things can be worked through.
yeah,
But it
man.
all starts with really good communication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Intimacy though. I mean, I mean, lack of intimacy. Like, who holding back? Him or her? I mean,
Or both.
or both.
Yeah. So
Um,
that is something that we really need to dive into on one of the episodes because everybody view intimacy differently.
mhm.
Some people think it's sex, just sex. Some people think it's, being here together, spending time together.
Yeah,
That is something that we have to really dive deep into when you talk about intimacy.
yeah. We're gonna talk about some sex. We will get into this conversation.
Yes.
So, but we're gonna save that for when we bring in on other couples because we don't want
Hmm.
to just give it from our point of view. We want to give
Yeah.
it from other people's perspective as well, so we can have some real adult conversation around that topic because it is a problem amongst many couples, right?
Hmm.
So we'll talk about that. Conflict, arguing. I think that's just communication, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
That's probably
Stonewalling. That is a
stonewalling,
no-no.
right? Right.
Yeah.
And everybody pointing fingers. Nobody want to take responsibility. So those things happen, man. And if you just let those things linger and going on and on and on, then I can see how it can become a major problem.
Yes.
So I'm gonna just run through these last through. I'm gonna just go through the first 10. We're at number six right now. 24% came that when the financial piece came in, the financial stress. So 24% having financial issues, problems
Mm-hmm.
that can cause. Trust me, we know that can
Mm-hmm.
cause stress and strain on a marriage for sure.
Yeah.
So that was number six. Number seven was lack of commitment. Right? I think it just not wanting to fight, not wanting to say, hey, we're gonna keep this thing together, stay committed. So, anything you want to speak to on that?
No, you said
No.
it. Hmm.
Number eight was 20%. I'm sorry, lack of commitment just now was 23%. The next one at number eight came in at 20%. That's parenting differences. We've been there,
Hmm.
totally different. But again, how she was raised, how
Hmm.
I was raised, and then now we're trying to raise kids together. That was some friction there as well.
Yeah.
Number nine, 10%. Marrying too young. We were in our late 20s when we married, but I can see how marrying
Well,
too young.
I was 24.
You was that
I was
you was
24.
24?
Yeah. I was
A little
young.
young tenderoni. Yeah, young tender.
I was young.
Okay, all
I
right.
mean, you were young too.
I was young. I was 27,
28.
28.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you were, yeah. Yep, you had just turned 28.
Okay. Yeah, all right. And then number 10, man, at 6%, opposing values and morals, right? So if you're not believing the same thing, you're not committed to hold true to any values and morals, then I can see how that can become a problem.
Hmm.
So but yeah, so that just when you think about those issues, those things, man, that's a lot of different topics, a lot of different issues, right? That's really destroying marriages today
Yes.
and why people are divorcing. But a lot of these topics, we're gonna cover all these things, man, in upcoming episodes of this podcast. So stay tuned, man. Stay locked in. It's gonna get juicy. I promise you. The biggest thing is that We just make this content to where it's relatable. And at the end of the day, that is something that you can grab from and some value that can potentially help you within your own marriage or relationship. So, yeah. So, what you got?
So, being that we've been married for 23, going on 24 years, and we have experiences,
Hmm.
and we said earlier that we're going to share some of the things that we went through to kind of help other marriages going through. And this is some of the things that we know for sure, right? Because we experienced them. And I wrote some of the things down. So this is about marriage and sustaining your marriage,
Hmm.
right? Through, years to come. And the one I wrote down 5 things that I think we can take from this. One is keep God first.
Absolutely.
How important is it to keep God first?
Yeah, man. I think marriage is a godly union. And I think once you go before God um to commit yourself to one another, there's a covenant, and I think that that's just not something like even one of the ones just now that we read, right? They not committed to it. It's a covenant between two people that's brought on by God, man. You can't break that. You have to be willing to make sure that God is at the center of your marriage at all times, because I think people miss that the piece of we're living in the world, um that the devil is kind of roaming and moving, right? This world is not of God. So I think when we look at the spiritual world, and then this um wicked world that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you got to realize, man, that everything in this world is of our flesh, right? So there are gonna be struggles, there are gonna be problems, but realizing that, man, this is something that we can't fight alone. We
Mm-hmm.
can't fight it alone. And we have to always depend on the Spirit of God to be with us, because this is a spiritual union, and we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and the wicked and the darkness of this world.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put it in that perspective and lean on God's word, that's where our strength gonna come from to fight a marriage, to
Yeah.
to to continue to sustain and make this thing successful. So got to put God first.
Yeah, and I have a scripture to back that.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ecclesiastic 4:12, and it talks about, you said that we have to keep God the center of our marriage. And I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if they do this now with marriage ceremonies, but for our marriage,
Mm-hmm.
remember we had 3 candles we had to light.
Mm-hmm.
One for the groom, one for the bride, and one was God. The candles we were lighting. So I think it's called the cord of 3 strands, and it's like a rope, the groom, the bride, and God. And so God is, when he's in the center, your marriage vows are not easily broken,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what you just said, that scripture to back that up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. God has to be first in the midst. If he's not, you, your marriage is pretty much. I really feel like it's doomed,
Yeah.
right? Because God, it's a godly covenant, and you can't fight this thing by yourself.
And
So
you got to be a believer, right? In
yeah,
God, in Jesus, in
yeah.
Christ, um, to for it not to be easily broken. So number 2, we have be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about that a lot, and I think even in being intentional, or intentional was your word,
Mm-hmm.
one year or this year.
Yep.
And being intentional really just means to take the focus off of self and focus on your spouse. Not that you have to, you know, not focus on you in a way that you need to, but you have to be mindful of your spouse, and you have to be intentional about your spouse's love language.
Mm-hmm.
If that's spending time with your spouse, if that's cooking for your spouse, if that's boosting his ego, whatever, we have to be intentional about those
Mm-hmm.
things. And so that's number 2 that we learn that we need to do. Anything on that?
Yeah, man, intentional. That was my word last year. Being intentional. And it was my word because it's so important for me to always just try to be intentional. And it's still, even though it was my word last year, my word this year is consistency. But last year, I felt the need for it because I think there was so many inconsistencies,
Mm-hmm.
in not just in our marriage, but just in my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get more intentional with different things, so I can see the success, the fruits of those things, because anytime you can commit to something for a certain amount of time, and I think you got to hang in there long enough to see the fruits of that.
Yeah.
Don't plant the seeds and then don't never water it. You have to consistently water that thing to see
Mm-hmm.
this sprout up. So yeah, so being intentional is it's especially in a marriage when it's two, being intentional in every aspect is something that it's a must.
It's a must.
Mm,
Yes.
yeah.
And we'll talk more about that later on as well. But number three is individual work. Now, this is
Mm,
huge. Um, because I know for us, and we'll dive into this later on too, but um, codependency is not good for a marriage, guys. It just is really not. We're putting too much on our spouses to handle.
mm-hmm,
And so I know for myself, I'm still on this journey of doing the work, doing the personal development, doing the individual work on myself, because we want our spouse deserves a higher um, part of us.
mm-hmm.
He deserves a better me every time, every year, every day. He deserves a better me, and vice versa. So you have to do the individual work, and like I said, we'll get more into that in some of the podcast episodes. But this right here is a big one.
Yeah, personal development. That's huge. I think because we, as we just mentioned, right? She was 24 when we got married. I was 27, 28. We're not the same 24 and 27-year-old people that we were,
No.
when we first got married. So that we're constantly changing through the years, and we have to continue to do the work and
Mhm.
grow and develop. And doing that together is amazing, but it's also just as important of doing your own personal work
Yes.
on you, right? So you can become that better person, like she mentioned, for each other, for your spouse, right? And I think after school, I like to say this because it's so true, and it's really a good way to look at it. When we go to school, we're learning. Then we go to college, some of us, right? And then we're learning. And once school ends, right, it's like all the learning stops. Like we don't continue to read, we don't continue to do the things to continue to learn more and get better, right, in certain areas. And now it's not just about geometry and science and this and that. Now it's about that personal development, characteristics, and knowing her personality, her emotions, her so I'm constantly learning those things. And as we both kind of shift throughout the years and we change, right, we should both be on the up, right, moving up together. So we got to always continue to just, man, do the work on yourself. Stop looking out the window and start looking in the mirror and do the work on you so you can be a better person and show up every day for your spouse. So
Yeah,
super, super important.
big time.
Mm.
That was number three. Number four is expectations. Hmm. That's
Yeah,
another big one.
yeah. So expectations, right? We talked about it before this podcast was it being a problem because there's so many uncommunicated expectations about one another, right? So we're not communicating. If I have expectations about her, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not fulfilling my expectations, but I'm not communicating to you
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, you ain't really meeting my love tank or whatever it may be. We need to communicate that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I got these high expectations, and then you're not meeting them, and if but it's my fault if I'm not communicating to you that these are areas that I'm in need, and not necessarily just sexual, but just, sometimes men has the biggest egos, right? So sometimes I need you to stroke that ego a little bit. Sometimes I need you to support me. Sometimes I need, even though we're supposed to be this strong individual, and yeah, I got you for sure. But sometimes I don't want to be strong. When I'm in the streets being strong, oh, I'm a black man. I don't want to always be in the street, trying to fight and be strong, and then I come home and I got to be strong again. Sometimes I want to be soft when I come home,
Hmm.
and I want to
Say
lean
that
on.
again.
Some,
Yes.
sometimes when I come home, I want to be soft. I don't want to always be hard, when I'm out, like I'm out in the streets,
And
fighting
this
for
is
my
coming
life.
from a masculine man.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, for
it's very
sure.
masculine.
Yeah. So sometimes I come home, I want to be soft and I want to lay up on something soft. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so it's just some of those things that, I just feel that man, it is man, it's yeah, super, super important
So
for
I can
sure.
hear my sisters right now saying, but I do communicate my expectations.
Mm,
I do.
yeah.
I hear you, sis. But here's the thing, real quick with expectations. I had to learn this myself because I put so many expectations on my husband that the list was just running out. Um, and what I had to realize is that the things that I was expecting from him, I didn't harbor those things myself. And so when I begin to, you know, expect those things from myself, it took the pressure off of him, and I stopped being frustrated. So, so expectation, it's okay to have, but when we're expecting our spouses to be everything, our best friend, our co-worker, our doctor, lawyer, lord, whatever, we're already giving them too much to handle. So some of the things, the expectations, you have to have those expectations for yourself before you can, you know, just put it all on your spouse. I had to learn that. It
Mm.
was the hardest thing to learn, and it was the hardest thing to get over because I had to practice not, expecting something from my husband that, he was not incapable of giving, but it was just too much.
But we did talk about some things, you know, that I was not just capable of providing, right? And once again, to rephrase that, it wasn't that I wasn't capable, but in the space that I was in,
Mm-hmm.
right, and how I was raised, right, I was unable to provide certain things for you because of how how I was brought up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't things that I wasn't taught or ever had to do before, right? And instead, just talk about that emotional piece, right? Meeting your emotional needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a part that we still struggle in, right? Even to meet her emotional needs, man, it's hard for me to get to that emotional space. Just not being an emotional, being. Well, at least as much as she need me to be for her. And now really being intentional, going back to the intentional word of trying to really meet her in that space when she need me the most so she can feel safe with me with her emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just and that's something that I'm intentionally trying to work on, and that's to create that safe emotional space for you,
Mm-hmm.
where you can bring your emotions to me and feel safe
And heard.
and heard.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So it's still a work in progress for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to do a whole episode on expectations, but the next one is communication styles. Like I said earlier, I thought the number one reason for divorce was communication. Now I'm going to run through four communication styles really quick, and you may be able to relate or find yourself in one of the four. So one is passive aggressive, which means that we indirectly express negative feelings instead of openly talking about what it is that we want to share with our spouses. We come from it in a negative way. Two is passive, avoids conflict and want to keep peace. These are my Akuna Matata people who want to keep peace, which is not always good. Aggressive, you are focused on winning by all means,
Mm.
which means that I'll jab you, I'll hit you where it hurt,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. So that's aggressive. Assertive is the best way that we can communicate, and that is expressing your point of view
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is clear and respectful. That's number four.
Yeah.
Expressing your point of view in a way that is clear and respectful. You're not screaming.
Yeah.
You're not throwing out the F bombs and all that kind of stuff because we know what that leads to.
Yeah, that was me. That's why yeah,
No,
there were times. Yeah,
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 that were,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
wasn't doing it,
No, I get it.
to point at you.
Yeah,
I was
no, I get it. I
just
get it.
saying.
But that I think number two is me for sure.
Number
Wouldn't you
two,
say?
avoids conflict and wants to keep peace.
Sometimes, yeah.
Mm.
I'm a little bit of one and maybe two. What was one again? Out and passive,
One is
and then
passive aggressive.
two.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe you guys can figure out what your communication styles are. I can tell
Yeah.
you this is that I thought for a long time we had really good communication. I really did for the first
Mm,
maybe 10 or so years of our marriage. And the reason why is because I never communicated what I wanted to say. Like and I did things like that to
mm,
actually keep the peace because I didn't want to ruffle the feathers or rock the boat or anything like that.
right.
And really, that's not a good way to be in a marriage because you have a voice, whether you, the husband or the wife, you have a voice in your marriage because it takes two people to sustain this marriage for a long time
Yeah.
and to work at this thing. So even if you say, yeah, we don't argue, we don't fuss, we don't fight. Are you communicating though?
Mm,
Because I've had that. I know people who say things like that. Yeah, we don't, but you're not communicating. You're not arguing or disagreeing or fussing because you're not really telling your spouse how you feel. If you like this or if you don't like this,
yeah.
you're just going on with the flow. So communication is huge, guys.
Yeah, man, real big. And our communication is something that that's an area that what we continue to try to work on
Yes,
daily,
daily.
even after 24 years.
Yes.
But man, our communication has got so much better, man,
Hmm.
so much better throughout the years. But again, it goes back to some of those things that we mentioned earlier, right? The intentionality and being committed and staying in it, right? Committed and keeping God first. So all those things, man, some of the things that helped us to get to the point to where we're 24 years in, going on 24 years in, and feeling like like, hey, we just getting started, baby. We just getting started. So man, we hope that some of this stuff was helpful to you. This is the type of stuff we want to continue to bring you on a regular basis. So stay tuned, man. We'll probably be dropping episodes maybe once a week. Maybe right now, maybe every Monday we'll drop an episode. Maybe somewhere around 8 o'clock. I think that's a good time frame.
Hmm.
Monday at 8 o'clock, we'll be dropping episodes. So stay tuned, stay locked in, man. This is Couples Connect, and this is how we're gonna do it, right? Marriage, money, and mindset.
Mindset.
Man, let's get it. We in this thing together. So, anything you want to say? Close it out.
No, you said it. Marriage, money, mindset.
Let's go. So, Couples
Renew that
Connect, man.
heart.
Couples Connect with Kevin and Tanya Locks, man. We your hosts. We just glad to be here, man. And for you guys who want to stay connected to us, man, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like us, follow us, man.
Share it.
Share it, do all that good stuff for those married couples. And we're glad you're tuning in, man. We blessed, man, that you was here. You could have been anywhere right now, but just you're higging it with your boy and your girl, man, Kevin and Tanya Locks. So, Couples Connect. We out.
Peace.
Peace.